panelists and our moderator, Manasvi Shah, today. Before we start off, I request all the participants to keep their videos shut and their mics on mute. I also request you to have a speaker view for a better viewing point. And before we start off, I would like to just say that it means so much for us to initiate this conversation and this talk on mental health, COVID, and youth, which is so important these days. And over to you, Manasvi.
Hi Jayati, thank you so much. I think this series is something that me and Jayati have been talking about since our first year of college. That we want to develop a space where we can have a conversation around mental health, and we felt that this was the time to actually do it. And I'm so glad that we're doing it together. The idea behind starting the conversation is to start the conversation, is to have a space where we all can learn about how to manage our psychological well-being. And for the same, we have amazing panelists here today who can do so. But firstly, let's just talk about what Tangram and Nothing Nonsense is. Over to you, Jaya.
So Tangram and Nothing Nonsense collaborated together to come up with this entire concept pertaining to the mental health and youth right now. Tangram is a human development center which provides an array of psychological services, including psychotherapy, counseling, career assessment, workshops, webinars. And we believe in putting our foot up and making sure that we're doing something for the community today. Before we head off, I would just like to put out a disclaimer that one of our panelists, Dr. Nimrit Singh, she is also the founder of Tangram, won't be able to join us today because her health is not supporting, but she sends her apologies and regards for the same.
I'll just give a brief introduction about Nathi Nonsense. So Nathi, as you might know, means no in Gujarati, and nonsense, as we all know. I started this when I was in 11th standard with my best friend Manasvi Shah. And this is a space that we've created, a platform in a space where young people can have conversations and dialogues around socio-political, cultural issues, and mental health being one of the most important issues there is. And we're so excited to start the conversation.
So before any ado, I would like to invite all our panelists and introduce them first. We have Yesha ma'am. She's the founder of Samanjasya Wellness. She is also a practitioner. She's a rehabilitation psychologist. She is an expert in REBT and she's done her qualifications from Albert Ellis Institute in New York.
I'd like to invite Dr. Selvi. Thank you so much, Dr. Selvi, first of all, for being here. She's a frontline doctor right now, and her story is so inspiring. Dr. Selvi is right now treating underprivileged patients for free. For over a month, she's almost treated around 2,000 to 3,000 people across India. Her motive was that she wants to reduce the stress, reduce whatever stress our healthcare system is going through, and Selvi doing an amazing job. Yeah.
Our last panelist is Kushali ma'am. So before I give her introduction, she was our 11th standard teacher in DPS, and we were never able to forget her. She's currently an assistant professor at Mitibai College and also counseling psychologist. So let us start with the discussion today. My first question is to Yesha ma'am. So these days, a lot of young individuals are facing a lot of issues in terms of trauma and grief. We received a lot of questions in our Google form that, they might have lost their parents and they don't know how to deal with it. So when you have so much of pain and pathos in you, when you deal something, how do you cope up with it, or how do you get over it? What we say these days. Yesha ma'am, are you there with us? Sorry, can you please unmute, ma'am?
Yes, I wasn't able to do that earlier. Good evening, everybody. Yes, sorry, Jayati, could you please repeat the question?
Sure. So I wanted to ask a little bit about trauma and grief today. We received a lot of questions on our Google form stating that, they lost their parents, they lost their mother, and they're not able to get over it, what young people say these days. So right now, during the pandemic, it's very difficult for them to deal with this pain. So how should young people specifically cope up with this emotion?
Right. So even before we go on to talking about how do we cope with it, just acknowledging the fact that loss of a parent or anybody important to you, whether you were prepared for it, whether you expected it, or whether you did not expect it, can seem very vast. And it can cause a pain that may seem impossible to heal, right? So just acknowledging that, yes, I have this loss, and this is the amount of pain I feel for this loss. No amount of preparation for the passing away of a near or dear one can actually, prepare you to accept their death, right? There are cases where we are prepared that their condition is deteriorating and death, it seems inevitable. But however, that knowledge cannot prepare us for the pain or hurt we may feel at the loss of our loved one. Having said that, grieving is a very personal process to each one of us. Each one of us deals with grief very differently depending on what kind of relationship we had with the person who has just passed away. So, allowing yourself primarily to experience whatever emotions you are feeling, naming these emotions. Sometimes we do not want to acknowledge what emotions we are feeling. It can range from sadness to anger to feeling numb to feeling frustrated to not feeling anything at all. Sometimes it may result into physical aches and pains, crying, not feeling motivated to do anything during the day, and so acknowledging and naming what emotions you're going through. I could be feeling sad in the morning, and later in the evening I'm very angry that my mother, my father, my grandmother had to just go away, like this.
Yeah.
So naming that emotion, validating your feelings, and it is natural sometimes that a lot of conflicting emotions from the past may come up, may resurface, that you had with that person. You may remember a time when you said something that you were not supposed to say, in when all of us were in better health, better state. So acknowledging even those conflicting emotions, allowing yourself to naturally just be rather than diverting or throwing yourself into activities and tasks, you know that this is the leave that you're getting from work, or this is the time off that you had, and that is seen as an appropriate time to just get over and move on. However, that is the time that been given from your off from your work. However, your feelings may take longer to process.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
allowing yourself that time, that kind of time, being patient with yourself,
Mm.
Yeah.
right? Sometimes we may just be relieved that they are no longer in pain,
Yeah.
and that may also trigger guilt, right? So acknowledging all of it, observing all of these emotions without being too harsh on yourself and questioning yourself, why am I feeling this and I should not be feeling this, this is right and this is wrong. They are just your feelings, and your feelings are not right or wrong.
Very true.
So just being there with your feelings, taking some time out for self-care, eating regular meals, hydrating yourself, keep moving, get some physical activity during the day, even if it's just walking from one room to another, sitting outside, getting fresh air. These small, seem very small, however, they are very important in the process of healing. Talking to people, talking to friends, seeking help if required from a professional, or joining some sort of support groups, allowing other people to help. Sometimes people are there to help and support us, but we do not want to ask for help, right? So even asking your friends and family to offer help, and if they are offering, being willing to receive it.
Yeah.
I think these are some of the ways to just get started with the process of grieving. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think something that really resonated with me when you were saying was that you allow yourself to do it, and there's no right or wrong way. And I think a lot of times you're questioning how do you deal with it, and expecting an answer which is um, with a plan, but it's not usually like it. So thank you so much for your inputs. I would like to invite Khushali ma'am. I think as young people, a question that we've received a lot in our when we were registering people was that how do you navigate your studies, your career at a time when things are so bad, when there's a pandemic going on. At one level, we have a pressure to grow, that you are in your 20s, this is the time when you grow, you make your career, you do this and that. There's a pressure to be productive, there's a pressure to grow, but at the same time we're feeling overwhelmed. So how do you sort of balance coping with whatever we're feeling right now and growing? And is there what do you have to say about it, Khushali ma'am?
Okay. Very, very vital thought process over here, because all of us are right now battling human existence. The role of being a student, the role of being a teacher, the role of being an employee are all somehow being squashed because my existence is right now under threat. And I think to allow the acknowledgement that it is okay first to be the human that you are, take that time off. Because if I talk about the learners space, which we call them learners now, we don't like calling them students anymore. If I look at the learner space, every learner has at least 25% attendance buffer. And I encourage them to, you please take minimum of your 25% buffer. I was happening to watch Grey's Anatomy, the recent seasons. And Miranda Bailey, one of the people, said, rest is not a dirty word. It's love, it is care. So my first encouragement to all our learners is, recognize learning is a ongoing process. It's not a small journey till you give your exams. Please acknowledge that you are human enough to have horrible shit happening around you. And it's okay to say, listen, I don't want to look at my books for a little while, because it's fruitless right now. Step 2 is, once you've acknowledged the dirt, I use this line very often in my lectures, kachra dekhna zaruri hai, kachra saaf karne ke liye. So once you've seen the dirt, you sit down and you acknowledge that dirt. And then you give the dirt a little buffer. You give the dirt a little time. Listen, you're very real. You're here to tell me that I've lost somebody. Like Yesha said, emotions are not right and wrong. Emotions tell you something about what's happening. It allows you to acknowledge what's happening. So you sit down with that hurt and say, you're telling me that there is a vacuum there. You're telling me there is sadness. And you're going to be here for a while. So I'm going to put you by my side and just hold your hand till I now focus on what I also have to do. Because you are going to be here no matter how much I give you time, to bhav khane wala hai. It's fine. Hak hai tera. But you just sit right next to me. So I encourage a lot of my learners to also visualize your emotion. Give it a color, give it a texture. See how it feels for you. And make it a friend. It's not anger. These are your friends. They're here to tell you stuff, right? And then you go on to the learning part. Once you're okay with that baggage, you come to rephrasing something that I've strongly believed in. I think pehle bhi bola tha, but now I think it's time that we start rephrasing education. We are not learning for exams. We are not learning for degrees. That never works. And my dearest young friends here, let me give you an analogy. Pick up 3 seeds. Pick up the seed of a rose, pick up the seed of a tulip, and pick up the seed of a lotus. You're going to give all these 3 seeds the same soil, perhaps similar soils. You're going to give all these 3 seeds similar amount of input in terms of water, sunlight, and nutrition. What does the seed do? She absorbs, she converts it into energy, thrusts herself painfully under the ground and above the ground, as though if she could feel the pain, she would moan. But then that moaning, that pain was so necessary for her to firm her roots down and then grow up. Now, when there is life from that seed, do you see the water, sunlight, nutrition? No. Do you see rose in all the 3? No. You see a unique individual. My encouragement to my young learners is to see education, your subjects, as those inputs which are going to tap your inherent potential to be an autonomous, critical thinking, functional individual. And if you are set out to be a rose plant, you see how you want to use the same water, sunlight, nutrition and grow. Now, if we hold on to this perspective, exams, I am prepared because I'm learning for life. I'm not learning for exams. जब exams आएगी तब देखा जाएगा. Exams should then be a place where I give my showstopper performance. Because I've not learned for exams. I've learned for tapping myself.
Yeah.
And that, how does it look like in my daily life? In my daily life, it looks like, okay, 2 hours I'm going to sit down with these books of mine. And then I don't say, mujhe ye chapters finish karne hai. I'm like, okay, this talks about photosynthesis. Let me see what this damn thing wants to teach me. And then you finish that, and then you sit down and you think about it. You chew over it. Anyway, exams ka pata nahi hai. So you don't have a deadline when you want to do it. Sit and chew on that material. What does this teach me? I think when you let it chew and it becomes a part of you, ask me in the exams and I know it because I don't know it for exams. I know it for life. I think the approach fundamentally needs to now for sure change. And that's worked for some of my learners as well. So that's what I offer.
That
So
makes
don't
so
worry.
much sense. Yeah. You know, as a learner in this education system till this date, I think whatever you said, all of us will be taking back home a lot of it. We crib about how we can't change the education system, but today when you spoke about it, I think we need to change our mentality first. Yeah. So moving on to Selvi, so we know that, you know, she's a young frontline worker today dealing with 100 patients every day for free. We know that even your mental health would be hampered. So how do you deal with it with so much stress? Because you're actually on the front line dealing with this pandemic, giving your all. So are there any ways that you cope up with it?
Well, so in our second year, we had this subject called preventive social medicine. Nobody liked that subject. We all ignored it. But that subject talked about all these things that we have to talk right now in this pandemic. It talked about mental health. It talked about health in general. So it told us that health is not just physical health, but it is mental health. It is social health, you know, interacting with your peers. It is emotional health. People often think that mental health and physical health, they are not connected. They think it's a taboo. Many times we as doctors also, if a patient has come to us and the patient says that he has depression, he is not happy, he's not able to sleep, we recommend them to a psychiatrist. But many a times that patient might have a physical disease. If I give you an example, in thyroiditis, in hypothyroidism, what happens is that you get depressed, you gain weight, and you're not able to sleep, right? So mental health and physical health are very much connected. Now, if we talk about this COVID-19 and its impact on mental health, humans are meant for physical touch. You know, we are meant to touch each other. We are meant to feel each other. We need human contact to survive. We as doctors, we need to touch our patients. We need to examine our patients. We need to connect with them, and we need to assure them that the treatment that we are giving is going to make you better.
Now that again is mental health. The patient getting the assurance that, okay, this doctor is going to treat me, that affects the physical health. It's called psychosomatic, as you would know. So psychosomatic is when you're, mental, what you are thinking, what you are constantly attracting, that affects your physical health. We've seen many miracles. We know many examples. So yes, definitely there is a connection. Not only depression among doctors, but I'll give an example. This one fine man, he called me, underprivileged patient. He called me at 2 a.m. At night, and his father was kind of serious. His oxygen was less than 50%. And he called me, so I immediately video called him, and I told him a few ways to increase his oxygen saturation. I taught him how to connect an oxygen cylinder and a mask and everything. His oxygen came up to 60%, 70%, but then I had to refer him to a hospital. So I gave him a few ambulance numbers, the NGOs that are working as ambulance. So I gave him those numbers. Now imagine the mental space of that guy and his family. The first question he asked me was, "Madam, पैसे नहीं लेंगे ना? अभी पैसे बिल्कुल भी नहीं है." 50% oxygen saturation. He knows his father is going to die if he does not get treatment, but he needs to ask कि पैसे नहीं लेंगे ना? So there are determinants of health. So socio-economic status is one of that determinant, right? So yes, and my many seniors, I'm doing teleconsultation right now, but my many seniors, the physicians, and who are actually working outside with COVID patients right now, they are under tremendous mental trauma. Doctors need to put a brave front right now, but also to treat more patients, they need to be well, which is not the scenario right now. They are seeing deaths every day. When I say every day, I mean like 14 hours a day since past 1 year, every day. They are seeing people going blind, young patients, boys and girls going blind due to this COVID. Constantly, they are seeing, their loved ones begging the doctors to, treat them, to make them survive. And to take all this stress is not easy. I'm sorry, but when I see, severe patients, and when I know, I give them a few numbers. I tell them that, contact this hospital, contact this ambulance. But when they don't get it, because everyone is overburdened right now. Nobody saw this coming. Okay, we saw this coming, but, our health facility is crippling. Nobody could do anything about it. So when I see and when I know in my gut that, he's not going to survive, it's not easy. And not only one patient, seeing 10 to 20 patients in one day is not easy. So yes, it is important that each day we shut ourselves off for 2 hours. We try on the dinner table to talk everything else but COVID. Just don't talk about it for like some time. Music, who does not like music? Yeah, listen to your favorite artists or whatever. And if you can, if you have the luxury, then sleep for 7 to 8 hours. I know we don't have the luxury right now, but sleep is important. People are having sleep disorders and everything right now. So yes.
Thank you so much, Selvi. I think what you're doing is very, very brave. And here, from all of us, we would really like to thank you for your service. And that was a very honest, an answer that was coming from your heart. And just to see that you are doing this for us, it, I think, helps somewhere in the back of our head that no, we have frontline doctors to save us. So thank you so much. I think I'll move forward with another question for Yesha ma'am. We all know that we're feeling very overwhelmed right now. There are a lot of emotions that we're feeling, not just overwhelmed. So how do you try maintaining your emotional well-being right now, and how do you try staying mindful? Because as also Selvi said that you need to have those 2 hours away जहाँ पे तुम कुछ ना करो, but then वो 2 घंटे हम अगर निकाल ले तो उसमें mindful कैसे रहे? What to do when we have, like, we can shut off? What do you suggest?
I'll take the example that Selvi gave, that in those 2 hours, when you're sitting and having dinner, trying not to talk about anything related to COVID, but everything else. I'll just like add more detail there. So when we talk about being mindful, just as the word suggests, being present to whatever you are doing right now. So mindfulness focuses more on being rather than doing. All of us have our days packed and we are multitasking, especially when we are at home, swiftly moving from one activity to another. So wake up in the morning, have breakfast, switch on my laptop, log in into work, continue through the day, give instructions to everybody at home, manage the household work, lunch in between, dinner. It just flows. And in between, we are also scrolling through our phones while the screens are up for work, while our classes are up. And for relaxation, what we are doing is we again onto our screens, watching some series or movies. So we do so much. However, a lot of my clients complain about not being able to enjoy anything that they do, right? Not being interested. They have all the time and luxury to do whatever they want. If they want to watch a movie, they can. However, they don't enjoy watching that movie. They're easily bored when they watch the movie. And one of the primary reasons is that we are not in the present. We are not with whatever we are doing. So while I'm, at work, I'm thinking of 10 other things that I have to do, or I'm thinking about what happened yesterday or day before or in the past. So I'm constantly between past and the future. I'm not here. Right. If I'm not here, all my senses are not going to be engaged in the moment. If my senses are not engaged, it's easy to get bored. Right. So being present to whatever you're doing, if you're just having your dinner, just eating it, enjoying the taste, enjoying the various textures of food that are on your plate, enjoying the process of chewing. It seems very simple, but that's the way to be mindful. Along with that, even during the day while you're doing many things, asking yourself a few questions. Some of them being, where am I right now? Like literally, where are you right now? And you can do this exercise right as we talk. Where are you right now? How do your clothes feel against your skin? How is your breathing? Is it shallow breathing? Is it deep breathing? Is it rapid? Is it slow? How do your hands and feet feel? Warm, cold, tingly? Right. What kind of surface are you sitting on? What day is it? What time is it? Are you hungry? Are you missing your coffee or tea? Right. So just asking these few questions during the day while you're doing whatever you're doing just helps bring your focus back to the present moment. And when we practice this for a couple of times during the day, we can increase that state of being mindful and be more present to the moment.
Very true. I think all of us should practice mindfulness on a daily basis, and not just in terms of meditation, but also what you just talked about. My next question is to Khushali ma'am. Moving forward with what Dr. Selvi said, that human beings need touch. We've been taught that human beings are social beings, and these days when young people are so accustomed to meet their friends, going out, hang out at some cafe, they're not able to do that. We are all sick of video calling each other every day or just being on text. So at this point of time, how do we deal with the sense of social support and social connection which all of us are missing right now?
Hmm. So sorry to break the sad news. In terms of physical touch, we're still going to be at a distance. Because sadly, and Dr. Selvi, you will agree with me, sadly, see, it's against human nature. And I think India started getting better in the month of September, October, and then we went gallivanting and partying. And here we are. And we're also fearing the third wave. And I think April was horrible, where we were struggling for resources. Struggling for resources. And thank you, the political system is amazing, in inverted quotes. Nonetheless, we're still going to stay apart. However, I believe now is the time that you can do those things with your social relationships that you took for granted when they were around, and engage in an inside out process rather than an outside in process. So what I mean is, when we were meeting people, we were in an autopilot mode. दोस्तों से मिले, हाय की, there was a routine. इन दोस्तों से ऐसे मिलते हैं, ऐसे दोस्तों के साथ ऐसे कपड़े पहनते हैं. We were in an autopilot mode. Now is the time that you get to explore. Now is the time that you get to sit and have meaningful conversations. And now is also the time that you sit and understand which human I can rely on and which stays as an acquaintance, stays as a support system. These are also the times that you can start narrowing down on a few of them, meet them regularly on video call, and talk about intimate existential concerns that we're all denied. We must not forget that last year COVID tha, this year COVID hai. It's become closer to our homes.
Yeah.
And we're all scared. We don't know if ours is going to be the next. And so we're all existentially very scared. And I believe these are the times that we can really talk. Like, really talk. I have a lot of my people who've got a lot more closer and tried and tested, and therefore I stand by it. I got a lot of help from my people to help me understand why do I feel the way I feel and why do I end up playing that damn pattern of mine every time. We all have patterns, and those are all our defenses, which as a young child I picked up because it gave me survival. But now I need to understand this thing is going against me. I need to now start reshuffling my pattern. So what I have done, and a lot of my learners have done, is we start talking about our emotions. We talk about why do I feel the way I feel. Create non-judgmental spaces, and we actually grow inside out. So now it's no longer about quantity, now it's about quality. I think everybody is in the same boat.
Yeah.
So allowing them their space. And I think this is also the time that ab agar insaniyat nahi sikhe, I am not sure when we will learn. If I cannot empathize, if I can't see the other person. I think we all want to be seen, no? I just don't want to be a friend. I want to be someone. I want to belong. Social animals, we are wired to connect. I think of belongingness padhana, talking about intimate concerns can make us feel really, God forbid something should happen, I'm not dying alone. And that can be so encouraging. So I'm proposing an inside out non-touching procedure till we can go back to our hugs. We also do this on video calls a lot because you still need them, right?
Yeah.
So we will meet our friends and we'll do this with the attempt that you can just feel my hugs on the other side.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think what you're saying also resonates, because what I do is that, when there's something going on, I just call up a friend, rant it out. And that catharsis just helps so much, to help me feel connected to my friends. So yeah, this is a great thing that you said. I think let's move forward with Selvi. Selvi, I think whenever somebody learns that they have tested positive, or that their loved ones have tested positive, the first emotion that comes is panic, is fear. And how is that playing out with COVID? And how can a person try not feeling fearful? And how can they stay calm during such process?
First of all, we should be aware of the problem. If we ignore the problem, then nothing better is going to come out of it. As we say, for our own betterment, for our own growth, we need to know our weaknesses, we need to know our strengths, and then, we can work on them, and then we can get better. So what is this? Like people are, calling me and telling me, मैडम थोड़ा बुखार है, थोड़ा कफ है, लेकिन ये तो नॉर्मल भी हो सकता है ना, इसे टेस्ट करवाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, राइट? सो दैट इज रॉन्ग. आई मीन दिस टेस्ट इज जस्ट टू डिटेक्ट कि हाँ कुछ प्रॉब्लम है. अगर पहले 5 दिन में ट्रीटमेंट लोगे तो बच जाओगे. अगर उसको डिले करोगे, अगर उसको इग्नोर करोगे, तो I'm sorry, but anything can happen, right? So don't ignore the problem. I know there is fear, right? But as you said that hum aap akele nahi ho, we are all in this together, right? So yes, please just be aware of the problem, get the tests done, and how it impacts, your physical health. You all might have heard of the fight and flight response, right? So fight or flight response, what is it? I mean, your body releases cortisol, your body releases adrenaline. So this response is an evolutionary response. It is meant to keep you safe, right? Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases. You know either to fight the danger or to run away from the danger, right? So now, how this affects, if you're in a constant state of anxiety, or if you're in a constant state of stress, so it is a fight or flight response. So continuously, these hormones are being produced in your body, cortisol and adrenaline. What will happen? You'll have blood pressure problems, you'll have anxiety attacks. And not only that, people who were not smoking, they've started smoking. Now, smoking is directly related to respiratory infections. It will narrow down your vessels and you will get asthma attacks. You will get, you are more prone to getting COVID infection. And people who were smoking, they've increased their frequency. Yes, because there is, a stress, there is a panic. So you know that your loved one is in danger. So, what you should do is try to build good habits. Serotonin, the good hormone, norepinephrine, the good hormone, which makes you feel good. These are produced when you even smoke, and even when you talk to a loved one. So you need to make a decision for yourself that, which habits you want to create. If you're not able to sleep, don't start substance abuse. On YouTube, there are many sleep music and everything which you can try, right? So all those things like your, mental fear and stress, they affect your physical health. So try to build good habits and stay away from all these bad habits.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Selvi. I think all of us took back some strategies as well right now regarding sleep and also the good habit, bad habit aspect of it. My next question is to Yesha ma'am. One thing which all of us have experienced right now or even observed in our family or in our friends, the rise of panic attacks. Right. Like it's not just, I think COVID is a huge part of it, but again, things are piling up, career aspects of it, family aspects of it, and definitely COVID. So the rise in panic attacks. So how should one deal with that right now?
Right. So, like you, rightly said, Jayati, that people with no previous history of panic attacks are also experiencing either heightened anxiety or panic attacks, right? So, I'd like to give my example. Like when I was detected with COVID with my entire family, my first response was, my God, this can't happen. And I remember feeling extremely anxious and worried for my kid, for my senior members in the family, and other people in the family as to, will they be hospitalized? Because we've been hearing so much about other people. There is news on the, constant, this streaming of news, this constant information pouring in from our friends and relatives. So, what if that happens to me? What if I have to get to a hospital? What if I don't find the right resources? What if I don't find the doctor? What if we don't know that this is something serious, we take it lightly, and then it turns out to be something extremely bad and huge. Now, if you notice, the pattern of these questions is what if? These things, these situations, I have created in my head from the knowledge that I have. It is like imagining the worst possible outcome of a situation. And when you imagine this worst possible outcome, it is an assumption. Although you may be clearly and vividly, visualizing everything that you're thinking, me rushing somebody to the hospital, me calling people frantically, I can visualize all of that. However, they're still based on my assumptions. That is not my reality, right? So when I believe that these thoughts about future, about the worst possible outcome are true, it usually triggers anxiety. It leads to us feeling anxious, right? And what is visible on the outside is behaviors related to heightened anxiety or panic. You could experience the physical symptoms and the emotional symptoms: crying, sweating, confused, not being able to carry out tasks properly. All of these things can happen, all of these behaviors can surface. Now, one technique of coping with panic attacks is the rain technique. It is also called as raining on the parade of your negative thoughts, right? So when we use the RAIN technique, the R is for recognize. R stands for recognize. Recognize the emotions that you're experiencing. Recognize the bodily sensations that you're having. Recognize the thoughts that you're having, right? So just the first stage, recognizing. The second stage is accepting it, acknowledging it, allowing it, right? Like Dr. Selvi said, that until we acknowledging it, and I think even Khushali ma'am gave that example that agar kachra dekhenge nahi, to how are we going to work with it? So accepting it, allowing it, and acknowledging it. Yes, I'm experiencing these emotions. Yes, I'm worried about my health, right? The third is inquire and investigate. Ask yourself these few questions. What triggered this emotional response for me? Is my worry realistic? Are my thoughts realistic? Are my thoughts functional? Are they helping me achieve my goal? In this case, the goal is to move towards better health. The goal is to access medical services and resources and start treatment. So if I'm going to experience anxiety and I'm going to continue thinking these, go on to this pattern of these same thoughts, is it helping me achieve my goal? Is it logical? Just because it is happening to few of the people I know, does it naturally imply and mean that it will happen to me? Sometimes we generalize it, right? So inquiring and investigating, and N stands for nurture and non-judgmental attitude. So I could be very judgmental about myself and say that you work with clients who have anxiety, you work with clients who face so many problems. How is it possible that you're experiencing, so much? फिर भी तुम्हें एंजाइटी हो रही है, फिर भी तुम्हें पैनिक हो रहा है, in spite of knowing all of this? Well, the reality is that I am a human being and they are my emotions.
Yeah.
Can I just accept my emotions? Can I just nurture myself? Can I just give myself some time and space to just settle down? Be again practicing mindfulness at this time, being present to your emotions and allowing them, observing them rather than being involved in those emotions.
Mhm.
So this is the rain technique. Other than that, practicing breathing exercises, deep breathing exercises a couple of times a day. You may not know, a lot of us don't practice meditation. A lot of us don't practice these breathing exercises. However, can I just focus on breathing? Breathing from my stomach and breathing out. Can I just do that a couple of times? Whatever you're doing, you could be having, talking to somebody, you could be, on a work call, but breathing exercises can happen at any time. Along with that, keeping some movement a part of your daily routine, exercising, even if it's just stretching, eating well, having a routine, a little structure to your day. You can be as flexible as you want, but however, keeping some structure to your day, deciding some part of the day that is completely off and away from the screens, even if it's just standing out in your balcony and just letting the fresh air, feeling it on your face. So some of these techniques help reduce the panic, reduce the heightened anxiety. However, along with this, I will also add that if need be, please, visit a professional or talk to somebody who better understands this situation.
Thank you so much, Yesha ma'am. Something that I had not practiced when I was having anxiety was the nurture part. I was so hard on myself. Like, why am I feeling this? I know everything. I know this happens, and why am I still feeling it? So, and I learned that really late. That okay, yeah, nurturing is a very important part in handling. When I started nurturing myself, anxiety ka dar hi kam ho gaya. So I think that was something that was really helpful. Thank you so much for that input. Let's start taking questions from the chat जो भी आ रहे हैं. If you have any more questions, please add it in the chat. I'll think Dharmesh has asked the question, and I would like to ask that to Selvi. Today, he said that today young people have lost their routine. They sleep at 4 o'clock and they get up at 1. So, do you think they're able to get back to normal? And if so, then how to do that? How to make your routine better? Selvi, what do you think?
I'm sorry, the network connection. What was your final question?
So, Dharmesh has asked this question. He's asked that young people have lost their routine. They sleep at 4 o'clock. They get up at 1. And do you think they'll be able to get back to normal? And if so, how can they make that happen? And what is the relationship of having a routine to your physical health? What do you think?
Right. So as you know, Yesha ma'am and Khushali ma'am rightly said, you need a structure. We know that you need a structure when you're isolated. You need a structure when you don't go to school or when you don't go to your workplace or when, the entire scenario, the world outside has changed. You need a structure because that is how, you put everything together and you move forward, right? I'd say that we all have a circadian rhythm, right? There are a few things which are produced at night and few things which are produced in the morning. The body knows when the daylight is less. The body knows when it's nighttime and when we're supposed to sleep. Right now, all the situation has changed. We sleep in the morning and then we are awake at night. So that is not right. Try to sleep at night time and wake up with the daylight. When we wake up, the cortisol levels, they are increased in our body, which gets us to go, which tells us that, okay, you have more energy now and now you can go work. And at night, melatonin is produced, when the daylight is decreased, the melatonin is produced and then the body is relaxed, all the muscles are relaxed and that's the time to sleep. So I know it'll be difficult for a few days, but there's a 21-day habit. So you need to be very willful. You need to make sure that you keep all the technology aside and you need to sleep by 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. and wake up with the daylight. So yes, it'll help that way.
Yeah, I think the 21-day cycle is something that a lot of people talk about. It's the same with meditation as well. You practice for 21 days, you might develop a habit about it. Another question that we received was, I think Kushali ma'am can be someone who can answer that. Most of the universities have been very, they help out very little to the students. They're not connecting to them. They're not reaching out to them. So at this point of time, how do students balance that sort of stress because they're not getting any answers, and what to do because there's so much uncertainty and ambiguity in the situation? So when it comes to authority or the universities, what can you do when you don't have anything on your hand?
Uh, I am not warranting their behavior as I say what I say next. My darlings, they are also absolutely scared as you are scared. And as I am on this side of the table, let me tell you, they are equally freaked. And I will tell you, we have not had our summer break last year. We went into lockdown from 17th of March. I'm in Mumbai. And we used to have a good 15-day break to help us prep, to help us come back to life. We've not had that break. We are completely confused, scared how to do stuff online. How do you get lectures online? How do you get those attendance going online? How do you get exams going online? How do you get fees online? How do you help students with learning difficulties online? How do you help students with physical difficulties online? How do I get a kid staying in the rural areas and internet connectivity and ensure that the bacha gets the education that they deserve? So I completely get that you are all extremely scared that these people are not helping. Believe you me, they are in the same boat as you. They are also figuring out a lot of things because they are also under a lot of pressure. Eventually, it's a commercial unit. They also need money to run. And a lot of that money is also invested back into the society. And thereby, this is the time that I believe in Charles Darwinian idea, survival of the fittest. What I've told my kids last year when the year started and what I've already prepped to tell them this year as we begin to start, God for, I don't know what will happen to the 12th exams, but at least the others. I told them, number one, get in touch with your WhatsApp group. Be in touch with people. Instagram is more popular than your Teams and Google Suite. So please get onto Instagram and get your news from there. If you don't know where to reach out, text 15 teachers, one of them will respond. They will not respond all the time. So get a seniors contact from them. Since the seniors are in the same boat as you are and they have gone through this earlier, they will be able to help you out better. So it is amazing to say मेरे को कोई help नहीं मिल रहा है, fantastic, but it is also amazing to say I am not getting help from a regular source does not mean door बंद हो गया है, खिड़की खोलो. If you want to survive, get up. I know this is horrible. I know this is something that is putting you out of comfort zone. पहले ये देखो, फिर assignments देखो, आप contact भी करो, करना है. I'm with you. I feel horrible. करना है, baby. Get up. So right now, don't trust them. Don't bank upon them. Now you bank upon what you can the best to get gold right now is what I would suggest. Some of them will help. Out of 15, one person will respond.
Yeah, I think that's a very practical solution, Kushali ma'am. And something that we've talked amongst us is there's a lot of frustration. Honestly, there's a lot of frustration agar universities are not responding. And why tumhe frustration ke abhi bhi kaise they're not able to understand. But I think, yeah, this what he's just saying really does make sense. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think Manas has asked this question, and I would like to ask Yesha ma'am this. He's asked that is it okay to find distractions? They're very short-lived, but they do help. And time is the only thing that will also heal us. So is distraction a healthy way to cope? And to what extent is it healthy?
So I'm just going to give an analogy here that imagine that you have, you want to go out on a drive, right? You open your Google Maps and you have a favorite destination that you want to go to, right? So when you put that destination in, what the map shows is that इधर रास्ता बंद है, इधर बहुत खड्डे हैं, इधर bumper भी है, and here the patch is rough. So you change that destination and end up going to a place that has smoother roads, is easy, no bumps, no rough patches. You reach there. The difference is, did you actually want to go there? No. So detours are great. Distractions are great. But like, Manas, like he clearly pointed it out himself that they're very short lived. So short term gain, long term pain. So if they're great, for the time being, like if I'm in the middle of a meeting and if something overwhelming is coming up and I immediately try to distract myself so that I can carry on with my meeting for the time being, that's all right, because that is helping you function better. But attending to your emotions, attending to whatever you're feeling, whatever your thoughts are, will actually help you be closer to your goal of being in a better space emotionally, right? So if it's only for the time being, these methods are useful, but otherwise if you keep taking detours, imagine always trying to find a road that has no rough patches, no speed breakers. Then that means you'll go to a lot of places, but these are not the places that you actually want to be at. So
Yeah.
addressing your emotions, accepting them again, even though you don't like it, will help you find a way to do something about these emotions.
Yeah, very true. I think today we learned so much from each and every one of our panelists, and even the participants were so, engaging and asking questions. So I think we have come up, we've reached the time limit today. We kept it till 6 and we're going to wrap it up on time. I would like to thank all our panelists today, Khushali ma'am, Yesha ma'am, Dr. Selvi, to be here. And I know things are very tight and you had to take out some time out of your very busy schedule.
I'd like
And
to
yeah.
I'd like to say something, Jayati. In the first question you asked, I mentioned that we need human contact, right? But I'll also say that we human species have survival instinct. We have survived the Spanish flu. We have survived all the world wars. We have survived the smallpox. We have eradicated smallpox, right? So we have this coronavirus is not new. It has been there since ages. There was MERS, that was SARS, right? But humankind has not ended. The virus is ended, but the humankind has not. So I'd like to tell everyone that mental health depends on fear and everything, right? But like just believe that we all are going, we have come together. Look at us, right? So we are going to get ahead and we're going to win this battle.
For
That's it.
sure. Yesha ma'am, Kushali ma'am, would you like to say some parting words?
Yeah. Thank you to the Tangram team and the Nothing Nonsense team for taking the lead, taking the initiative to get us all together, and also addressing this much needed topic. Like I was speaking to you before, the organizers, before we started this session, was that the most difficult part sometimes is to just cross that threshold, to acknowledge that yes, this is something that exists. Mental health is not exclusive to some people, it's not just related to mental illness or disabilities. Mental health is for everybody, just like physical health, right? We don't use it as a preventive measure, however we nurture it, we nourish it, we take care of it. We It's not like an SOS system ke jab aag lagi tab we try to do something about it. So yes, I think with this initiative and with this session you have led us to this threshold of acknowledging and addressing the much needed topic. So thank you. I'd also like to thank Kushali ma'am and Dr. Selvi, because they were great
Thank you.
insights and it just aligned with the whole purpose of this session.
Thank you. This was wonderful. It was a pleasure to remove time, especially when I saw it came from you. And when I think there is no prouder moment for an academician to see their kids growing so well. I think this is such a privilege. And I think on an ending note, let us remember what Albert Einstein in one of his quotes said, that life is like a bicycle. You want to keep the balance, you keep moving, like Dr. Selvi said. So keep moving. We will overcome. I think that's a very fantastic note to end with, Dr. Selvi. Being in her space and she's still saying it, that we will still, I think that's the kind of encouragement and strength we need to draw from. If she can see it,
Yeah.
I think we can vicariously
we
believe.
will.
And, we can, it is going to be bad. It's going to be dirty. It will be smelly. It might be horrible. But if it's not killing me yet, it's making me stronger.
Stronger. True that.
And, wonderful session, my girls. So proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think today all of us have learned something which a lot of people say, but they don't preach, is that treat your mental health the way you would treat your physical health. As everyone, I have a headache, even they have, little flu, they'll call up the doctors. But when you're actually going through something, you might have a panic attack or you might genuinely feel low for a couple of days, you will not hit up a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So to those people who are not able to do that or not able to go through that stigma or reach or move forward from the myths that they still face, I think such platforms is something that can help them out in some way or the other. But still, it can never, you know, make it up to a professional help. I also would like to say to each and every participant today, if you're genuinely going through something and you're not able to deal with it, please contact a mental health professional and they will definitely help you out of this situation and guide you and facilitate you somehow. We will be continuing this series. So we started this initiative as a series. The first webinar, we wanted it to be open for all. The next few series will be something we'll be charging very minimal amount, and all the money that we raise will be going to mental health initiatives and people who provide free therapy to underprivileged people or people who genuinely need therapy during COVID and can't afford it. So over to you, Manasvi. She will tell us a little bit about our next session.
Thank you so much, Jayati. First of all, I would just like to thank all three of you, Yesha ma'am, Khushali ma'am, and Selvi. You were great. You answered everything with so much compassion and so much honesty, and that is why it resonated with us so much. I think just listening to your answers would have made us feel some better because you were just so empathetic towards everything. It was a privilege to have you guys here. Thank you so much. I'll talk about the next session. Paridhi, just can you share the screen once? But before, as she's sharing the screen, yeah. So we're having a session. It's a workshop called Finding Hope, Calm, and Self-Kindness During the Pandemic. It is being facilitated by Miss Akansha. She's a counseling psychologist. She's an art-based therapy practitioner, and she does trauma healing for underprivileged communities. She is amazing. I've had a session with her and she's great. I think we and Jyoti wanted to create a space where all of us can come, have a breather, come connect again. Akansha is trying to create an experiential and healing safe space, and that is what it would have. This is the I'm sharing the link on our chat, which has the registration ka. Just a second, guys.
In the meantime, I would also like to thank Devika and Paridhi because both of them helped us out a lot. Paridhi is the host right now, dealing with all the technical things, and Devika is actually the one who looked into all the questions and made sure all of them were answered.
So I have shared the link, guys. It's a bare minimum fees if you guys are interested in attending something like this. Of course, it is not close to therapy at all, but here we've tried creating a space which is safe and can be a breather. If you guys are interested in attending it, it would be amazing. And thank you so much, guys. I hope we see you guys really soon again. I think, Jyoti, do we have anything else?
No, let's end the session today now. And just very grateful for everyone to be here.
Everyone, please do stay safe, stay healthy. And Yesha ma'am, Khushali ma'am, Selvi, can you add your details on the chat? Maybe if they want to reach out to you for a session or just for questions, maybe they can. So I think that will be great for the. We'll also send all of you an email with their details if you miss out by any chance. And I think थोड़े questions रह गए थे, तो we'll make sure that those are answered later on. I'm so sorry अगर थोड़े questions रह गए हो तो. Selvi, are you writing your contact info down? Yeah, Selvi, hi. Are you writing your contact info down?
I think Pari will have to unmute her.
नहीं,
I wrote it in the chat box. I'll have to write it there only, right?
yeah, but I
Yeah.
couldn't see it.
I wrote it in the chat box. Did you get it?
I can't see it. Can you guys see it?
It came. Acha, okay, it came to someone directly.
Acha.
All right, just a second.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.